citizens of Nazareth. King Herod bids you listen. Emperor Augustus has ordered a census. All men must return to their ancestral home to be counted and registered for taxation.
And what if we say no?
No is not an option.
According to Luke, the census requires Joseph, the head of the family at that time, to travel back to his ancestral home all the way south to the city of Bethlehem.
Many modern scholars believe that the Gospel of Luke uses the census to bring Mary and Joseph from Nazareth down to Bethlehem because many biblical prophecies state that the Messiah will be born in the town of David in Bethlehem of Judea. And they barely got there before Mary gave birth.
Full of guests. But they did say we can't sleep on the ground floor.
They were not looking for a Holiday Inn Express to stay in Bethlehem. There wasn't one. They were going to the ancestral home to be with their relatives.
There was no room in the family quarters, and Judean houses were arranged in such a way that upstairs the family had their living quarters, and underneath them on the lower floor is where the animals were kept.
We are being watched over. There can be no darkness where there is light.
Childbirth in the ancient world was particularly dangerous. If a woman got sick or there were complications during childbirth, the child and the mother could be lost almost instantly. Millions of women died in childbirth.
small things.
Jesus.
The traditional story is that Jesus was born somewhere near Christmas. Much more likely, it was in the spring of the year, because we know that the shepherds are out in the fields with their flock. And there were these fields, which there still are today, where they're still raising sheep there.
Do not be afraid. I bring you the good news for all people. To you is born this day in the town of David a Savior, who is the Messiah.
There's an aspect of prophecy at work. The Gospel of Luke has shepherds because Luke wants us to see Jesus as the successor to King David, who is considered to be the greatest king in the history of Israel, who was also a shepherd called in from the field to lead his people.
So small. So vulnerable. And he will have enemies.
Enemies, yes. But friends also.
The Magi are astrologers, and they have seen a star that won't let them go, that captures their imagination, that wants to guide them across the country.
There's parts of the Gospels that seem to say that they're from Persia. Other places say that they might be from other places in the Middle East.
We seek an audience with King Herod.
According to the Jewish historian Josephus, Herod's last days are, to put it mildly, grim. Herod is internally eaten up by worms, he's ravaged by sickness, he smells terrible.
His bowels are so irritated, so inflamed that he can barely stand to sit. His genitals have been completely eaten away by worms.
Enough!
In addition to all the physical ailments, he's also increasingly paranoid, deluded, he sees plots everywhere.
Now, the New Testament only tells us that the Magi are from the east, but to the east of Judea is the Parthian Empire. And Herod the Great's main job for the Romans is to keep the Parthians at bay. So when these magi show up from the east, he could have them arrested thinking that they were spies, but he doesn't want to create a diplomatic incident for Rome.
The purpose of your visit.
We seek the one who has been born King of the Jews. We saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him.
I'm not sure I understand you. I am the King of the Jews.
A king, yes. But not the king.
You seek this child, the King of the Jews, and yet you do not know where he is.
We read the heavens, celestial movements. A star far brighter than any other led us here, mighty Herod.
We've seen nothing. We've heard nothing. But we will investigate. How is it that a rabble of trouser-wearing charlatans from the outer fringes of the civilized world know about the birth of this King of the Jews, and yet we know nothing?
Herod is incredibly insecure about his Jewishness. While his father was Jewish, his grandfather had been a convert, and thus to many Jews, he would have been seen as less Jewish than he might have wanted to be.
The Jewish people don't see him as a legitimate king. He doesn't have the right pedigree.
He is immediately searching for this claimant, even though, by all the information he has, it's only an infant. This is only a child, but Herod himself feels threatened by this child.
The book of Micah. But you, Bethlehem, out of you will come one who will be ruler over Israel.
For Herod, the greatest threat to his legitimacy is a better candidate. Any reports of another possible Jewish king would have terrified him.
We have come to see the Messiah.
They just want to see him.
The Gospel of Luke tells us that the shepherds go and find Mary, Joseph, and Jesus.
The shepherds go and tell everyone that they meet the good news of this birth.
The shepherds telling people is completely understandable. This is an incredible experience. But here's the thing, the more people they tell, the more danger they put the Holy Family in.
priests have found the prophecy. The child you seek is in Bethlehem. When you find this child, you must return here and tell me immediately. You understand, I wish only to pay homage. For such a prophecy to pass in my kingdom during my reign would truly be a blessing.
It is too much.
Nothing is too much for a king.
The gifts of the Magi, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, are suitable for a king, from birth to death, from womb to tomb. Frankincense is used in worship, a symbol of prayer ascending to God. Myrrh is an odor retardant used in burial. And gold, well, what king doesn't need resources?
It is not just presents we bear, ill tidings also. We came from Jerusalem. Herod knows of the prophecy. And despite his best attempts, he could barely disguise his malice. We had a vision in our sleep.
When Mary and Joseph realize that King Herod knows about the birth of Jesus, they are immediately afraid about the future of their child. So the Magi have a dilemma. Do they return to Herod and report to him and endanger the life of the child? Or do they return home by another route and incur the wrath of Herod, who might pursue them?
They know the kind of human he is and what he's capable of, and they make a plan to get back home on another route. They choose to do the righteous thing, the right thing, even though it puts them at risk. They protect this baby with their own lives.
This better be good, Antipas.
We can't find them. They were last seen leaving Bethlehem, but nothing after that. Our spies think they may have returned home by the desert road.
Imbecile! If the Magi are running, it is because they have found the child. The prophecy is true. You will take 20 soldiers into Bethlehem immediately. You will go to every house. You will take any child you find there under the age of 2, and you will slit their throats.
There'll be a riot. To kill so many on such a scale. The men, they might refuse.
Refuse? Nobody refuses the Herods. You want to wear my crown, boy? Get your hands dirty.
If any of you are in any doubt about this mission, then remember this. If your sword comes back unbloodied, then I'll gut your children, your wives, your mothers, and then I'll give you to my father.